Jai Hind all. This is Assistant Professor Gagandeep Singh from AKGEC Engineering College. This is a lecture series on complex topics of satellite communication with a subject code of KEC 062, an elective course in AKTU. In this complex topic, we are discussing important satellites of India that are not only proud for the India but also important to know about the history of the satellite communication. That is the first topic in the syllabus. So I am Gagandeep Singh, Assistant Professor in EC department in AKGEC Engineering College for this complex topic. If we study study about the Indian satellites, the first important satellite that comes for the India is the Aryabhata. This is the first satellite which was launched in 1975, particularly on 19th April 1975. It was after a long time when the first satellite was launched, that was Sputnik 1 in 1947, but this was the first step by India toward the space research. This satellite was an technical experience to build and operating a satellite system. This was the first technical satellite that was designed and built in India. So this is a picture of this satellite that was given. The main main important application for this one was earth science and the space physics. However, this launches only for 5 days. After that, when its battery dries out and it does its task. So this was the first satellite that was launched by India. Its mass was 360 kgs. Second satellite was Bhaskar. In Bhaskar, this was again a first experimental remote sensing satellite, which was again a working condition, and it was 444 kgs, and it was used for astronomy, communication, as well as engineering and the earth sciences. It was launched in 7 June 79. This not only carries the remote sensing but also used for the TV communications and with the microwave cameras. So it was using for the astronomy using microwave cameras and communication for TV communication. There were a series of Bhaskar. Bhaskar 1, Bhaskar 2 were launched later on. Then Rohini technical payload. This was the first satellite that was launched by India. Previous satellite series or previous satellites like Aryabhata or Bhaskar was launched by USSA or USSR. But this was the series of satellite which was launched by the India from Satish Dhawan Space Center. This satellite was intended for measuring an in-flight performance of the first experimental flight of SLV-3, the first Indian launching vehicle. Even though this was not a successful, the satellite was not launched in the orbit, but still it was a major step toward creating our own satellite launching vehicle, which was SLV-3 at that time. It was tried on 18th July 1980, and its weight was only 35 kg. Because this was an experimental satellite, we were trying to launch. We were trying on launching vehicle, not on the satellite. So it was only an experimental satellite with a very low weight. After that one, a series of Rohini satellites were launched with Rohini 1, Rohini 1B, Rohini 1, Rohini 2, etc. All these satellites were generally used for the earth sciences. Most of these series were used for the earth sciences. Was again weight of 35. Its weight was similar to the previous launching Rohini technical payload. It was used to measure in-flight performance of again SLV, the second experimental launch of the SLV. This was the India's first satellite launch which achieves its satellite. After that one, it was the seventh nation. India was the seventh nation who can create and launch its own launching vehicles and on satellites. After that one, there were a series of Rohini was launched. The Rohini II was launched in 31st May 1981, which was again for the Earth science, and it was again a low weight satellites. This was the initial stage for the Indian launching vehicles. So the satellite launch size was launched cycle size was taken as a lesser size, smaller size. So it was used to conduct some remote sensing studies, which is using some sensor payloads. Also launched by the first development of the SLV. After that one, again a series of Inset was used. This Inset was used for the communication. These satellites are communication satellites, the first operational multi-purpose communication and meteorological satellite. This was procured from USA and worked for 6 months. After this was again a step toward the communication satellites. In these satellites, generally communication is and still there are so many satellites in the Inset that were still being launched in this series. So this was a series of and start of the series of Inset satellites, starting from 10th April 1982, and its mass was above 1000 kgs. Then again another series of satellite that was initiated from 17th March 1988, which was IRSS. The first satellite was IRS-1A. This was Earth science satellite where generally Earth observation is done. So first operational remote sensing satellite was IRS-1A. So its size was approximately equal to 1000 kgs. After that one, another remote sensing Earth sensing satellite was Oceansense. Again, there are few satellites in this series. The start of this series goes from the 26th May 1999, and it was used for the ocean color monitoring with multi-frequency scanning, multi-wave microwave radiometer. So these both give the different aspects of the ocean, the fishing and the changes in the ocean. All these sensings were done using Oceansense. Its size was again approximately 1000 kilograms. Then another is Gset, or this is also called Gset. This is again an important series for communications. This series, this was the first satellite and was experimental satellite for the first development flight of geosynchronous satellite launching vehicle, that is known as a GSLV. It did not complete the intended mission, but it was again a milestone for GSLV. So geosynchronous satellite launching vehicle was initiated with these Gsets. There are a number of Gsets that are used for the communication, and these are still used for many Vsets and other communication purposes. So it was using its Gset, and it has this weight of 1.5 kg. Then another satellite which was the experimental satellite to test the technology such as the altitude and the orbit control system, TTCM, with the high torque reaction wheel and the new reaction control system. All these were introduced in this 1 meter resolution camera and this was again a prototype for the future spy satellite. The major advantage or major milestone for this one was that it is again using PSLV, the polar satellite launching vehicle. So it is not a geosynchronous, it was not an inclined orbit, this is a polar satellite launching vehicle. It was started in 22nd October 2001, used for the earth sciences, but and a size of more than 1000 kg. But the major purpose of this satellite was to enhance the satellite telemetry tracking observation technology, plus to create some high resolution cameras in the space. Then another satellite was METSAT, also known as the Kalpana 1 set. This meteorological satellite, which was built by satellite, so it do not use for the earth only, but also used for the spatial activities. So this satellite was subsequently renamed after Kalpana Chawla, who was a passenger in the space satellite Columbia, that and it was using PSLV. This was launched in 12 September 2002, and it is used for more than 1000 kg payload. In between the different satellites, there were other satellite were also launched in these satellites. Like there were a number of Insets satellites were launched. Then G satellites were a number of G satellites were launched. Then the different PSLV are used for launching the different purpose satellites. After this one, there is another mini satellite, the first mini satellite that was IMS1, which was launched by India. This was in 28 April 2002. This was a size of 83 kg, so it was a very lightweight satellite, which is a satellite, not an only experimental, also imaging was its main purpose. As it was a low, less mass satellite, it was carried with a satellite called Cartosat. It was a co-passenger of this main satellite. Cartosat was again a series of satellite with this one. Then Chandrayaan was another milestone which was being used for the exploration of the planetary science. Its size was more than 1000 kg. The main satellite mass was 1380 kg, plus there were some secondary payloads of 500 kgs, more than 500 kgs. So it was the first uncrewed lunar probe, and it carries 11 scientific instruments to build and design by USA, UK, Germany, Norway, Poland, and Bulgaria, along with India. So this takes after 9 months, the lunar craft was this spacecraft was failure, and again system. Additionally, the fault orientation of the SAR, which gives the disconnection in the communication with the satellite, and this failed experiments which was intended to be done. So this was in 22nd October 2002, where we started with our own Chandrayaan mission. Then a series of small satellites were also being initiated with the satellites. The one of them was Anusat, which was first a university satellite launched and created by a university students called the Anna University. This was a research microsatellite used for radio and technologically demonstration or experiments. This satellite was co-passengered by RISAT 2. This was again a series of IRSATs which was launched by India. This launch was in 20 April 2002 and is generally used for the technical demonstrations only. Its size was 40 kg. So these are the microsatellites that are being launched in the space. Then there are student satellites, which are StudSat, which was launched in 12 July 2010. As Anusat was the first satellite, after that one, there are a number of satellites were being launched to the space. This StudSat was co-passengered with the Cartosat, again a series of India Cartosat. So it was the first picosatellite. Picosatellite means its mass was very less, less than 1 kg. So its weight was less than 1 kg and designed and developed by the 7 engineering colleges in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. After this initiations, there were a number of satellites were transmitted. For example, Jugnu satellite satellite launched by IIT. Then SRM satellite, both are launched in 2011 in different launching vehicles. Then there was Satyabhama Sat that was again a university Satyabhama University satellite. Then Pratham satellite, which was launched again by IITs. So these are the different satellites which were again created by manufactured by universities and launched by India. Generally, the StudSat was used for the communication, but it was also the experimental satellite. Then ResourceSat is another a satellite of ISRO, which is important for not only remote sensing but also for the technical applications. Main purpose was the remote sensing. This essentially works with the same as the ResourceSat 2. The ResourceSat 1 was the satellite which was used to earth science to find out the resources available in the on the earth. So in that series, this resource 2 was launched in 20 April 2011. Majority of these are in the earth sciences and then the technical applications. This was a heavy satellite and it was 12,006 kgs. This satellite was not only using the remote sensing but also important for the exploration of the mining and the available water resources on the earth. Then a milestone on a satellite was IRNSS satellites, which was for the India's own navigation system. IRNSS-1A was first of the different 7 satellites that were intended for the Indian navigation system. The first satellite was launched in 1st July 2013, used for the global positioning system. Its weight was 1425 kgs. This IRN system is now fully functional, and in this series of IRNSS, there were 8 satellites was launched. One is parked satellite and 7 satellites are using these navigational system. In 2021, this IRNSS was compulsory in all the launching all the vehicles on the road, and it is fully functional now. Also, it is being used in some of the mobile phones for instead of using GPS, we can use our own IRNSS. In this one, two different satellites are in geosynchronous as well as in the geostationary satellites. Some are in the low Earth orbits also. And out of 7 satellite, after 7 satellites, 1 satellite is in the parking mode. Then another milestone or proud moment for India is the Mars Orbiter Mission or Mangalyaan or MOM, famously known as. This MOM was the Mars Orbiter Mission. This was a launch, as we know that this was to explore the Mangal or Mars. This was started from 5th November 2013, and it took a long time to reach toward the Mars. Mainly used for the planetary science. In planetary, mostly the different Mars was explored, and it was also used for the different more than one stages of the launch. The size of this one again has the different satellites, but the basic satellite was 1340 kgs, but there was 500 kgs plus other for the other payloads. Then another is Chandrayaan II. As Chandrayaan was a failure, but Chandrayaan was again tried in 5th November 2013. Its size was more than 3000 kgs and used for the exploration of moon. So it was launched with geosynchronous satellite launching vehicle. So it was the second moon exploration mission, and orbital insertion was successfully, but it could not land on the moon. So then there is CMS or Gset 24, as we have already discussed that in Gramset or Gset was initiated in 1990s, and it was the last satellite that has been launched previously. So it was the first demand-driven satellite of NSIL, and it is operated by Tata Play. This is launched in 22nd June 2022, and the size of this satellite is 4181 kgs. So these are the various satellites that are being launched by India and created by India. In these we have discussed the mainly first satellite of the series. For example, Inset satellite series that is still being launched and being used for the communication purpose. All our dish TVs are using the Gset and Inset satellites for communication of the communication and TV transmission. Also, India has launched many satellites which are creating history. For example, we have launched 12 satellites in a single launch. There are a number of student experiment satellites that are being launched. More than 1000 satellites are being tried and are launched in the space. So these are the basic important satellites and milestones for the India that are being launched in the space by India. Thank you.